Boring history for sleep, morning rituals in a medieval Irish monastery. Before the sun even hints at rising, the world outside the stone walls of the monastery lies in a hush so complete it could be mistaken for eternity. The monastery, nestled in the soft folds of the Irish countryside, breathes gently in the pre-dawn dark. The walls, thick with centuries of quiet devotion, hold in a silence that is both heavy and sacred. A faint mist clings to the outer stone, curling around the wooden beams of the cloister and softening the edges of the small herb garden, long since surrendered to sleep. Inside, the air is cool. Not cold, not warm. Just cool in the way that stone always is when it has known night for many hours. The thick walls have absorbed the chill, and it lingers like breath on glass. There is no movement yet. Only the slow shift of time. Ambient, soft flicker of fire, faint rustle of straw. In the dormitory, long and narrow, rows of wooden beds stand like still sentinels. Each one is simple, hand-hewn from oak or ash, with joints worn smooth by years of hands and elbows. On them lie straw-filled mattresses wrapped in coarse woolen blankets. A dozen monks sleep soundly, their breathing deep and steady, their forms unmoving beneath the heavy folds. The scent in the dormitory is of wood and old linen, of wool, of faint beeswax from the lantern burned hours ago, now long extinguished. Time moves differently here, slower, more deliberate. Outside, the wind nudges gently at a wooden shutter, which responds with a soft, rhythmic creak. Ambient, creaking shutter, distant owl, barely audible wind gusts. Overhead, the wooden beams of the roof rise in sturdy arches, blackened from smoke over decades but solid still. Cobwebs cling quietly to the corners, and dust drifts in the air only when disturbed. But now, all is still. Not even the mice stir under the floorboards. Beyond the dormitory, down a corridor of cold stone, the chapel waits. It is the heart of the monastery, and even now in the dark, it hums with quiet purpose. Its altar stands beneath a narrow arched window, clear, not stained, but set with thick, wavy glass that will soon catch the first grey light of day. Ambient, very faint bell chime in distance. A single bell, far off and muffled by the morning fog, rings once. Not a harsh toll, but a soft reminder, a calling across the silence. The monks do not startle. Their lives are ordered by the rhythm of bells and prayer, and this is the first note in the day's slow melody. One by one, they stir beneath their blankets. No words are spoken. Speech before prayer is discouraged. The rule of Saint Benedict, carefully copied and recited by generations before them, teaches silence as the beginning of devotion. The first monk to rise is the prior. His hands, calloused and weathered, fold the blanket over his mattress with practiced care. He stands, barefoot on the cold stone floor, the chill climbing through his soles into his bones. But there is no complaint, only acceptance. He moves with slow grace, mindful, deliberate. His habit, draped neatly over a wooden peg, is pulled on in one smooth motion. The rough fabric brushes against his skin. It is not comfortable. It is not meant to be. Monastic life is not about comfort, it is about purpose. One by one, the others follow. Some are young, novices still getting used to the cold mornings and the constant quiet. Others are old, their backs bent slightly, but their steps sure. Together, they form a silent procession in the half-light, gliding through the dormitory like shadows returning to their source. Ambient, soft footsteps on stone, fabric rustling, their feet, bare or sandaled, make soft sounds against the floor. No torch is lit. They know the path. The corridor curves slightly to the right, leading past a niche where a small wooden crucifix hangs. Beneath it, a shallow bowl of holy water rests, carved from limestone and smoothed by centuries of use. Each monk dips 2 fingers, touches his forehead, chest, and shoulders. Even in darkness, the gesture is precise. In a side room, a basin of water sits ready, drawn the night before. The monks wash their hands and faces in silence. The water is cold, drawn from the well near the garden, and it stings at the edges of sleep. But they do not flinch. They do not rush. The act itself is a prayer. Every gesture in this place, no matter how small, is sacred. Ambient, soft splash of water, echoing slightly back through the hall, their procession continues. The air grows colder as they approach the chapel. A draught slips in through the old wooden door, which groans slightly as it's opened. The hinges complain, but softly, like an old friend waking from slumber. The chapel is still dark, though a sliver of pre-dawn light has begun to press against the eastern wall. The air smells of incense and old wood and the faintest memory of candle wax. A single taper is lit at the altar, and the room seems to inhale the light, drawing it into its ribs of stone and oak. Ambient, low flickering flame, distant chant begins to fade in, the monks kneel. In silence, they wait for Matins, the first office of the day. It is the prayer of the night's end and the day's beginning. The room holds them like a cupped hand. Their breaths are slow, synchronized not by intention but by familiarity. One voice begins the chant. It is low and gentle, more breath than sound. Domini, labia mea aperis. Eos mea manunciabit laudum tuum. Ambient, soft Gregorian chant, slow and flowing, the others join. Their voices rise slowly, a tide against the stone, filling the room without overwhelming it. The Latin words do not need to be understood to be felt. Their purpose is rhythm, not meaning. A sacred cadence to carry the monks into the day. Each note stretches into the next, creating a blanket of sound beneath which the silence still lives. Their chant is not hurried. It never is. There is no rush in a monastery. No schedule to beat. Only the bells and the prayers and the long, gentle passing of time. Outside, the first light begins to appear on the horizon. Not sun, not yet. Only the suggestion of light. The kind of glow that seems to rise not from the sky but from the earth itself. It creeps over the hilltops and across the damp grass. It brushes the monastery walls with a blue-gray breath. Inside, the monks chant still. And the day, ancient and new, begins once again. Ambient, soft stone footsteps, gentle wind pressing against old shutters. The hour before sunrise is not truly dark, but neither is it light. It hangs between the two like a held breath, uncertain and waiting. The monks know this hour well. It greets them every day, unwavering, unchanging. And they receive it with reverence. Within the dormitory, the last of the monks has risen. Robes drawn over shoulders, leather belts loosely tied at the waist, cowls draped softly around the neck. The rhythm of waking is not hurried, it is not even conscious. It has become a ritual, etched into the body by repetition, like a groove worn into stone by centuries of water. Ambient, creaking floorboards, faint rustle of linen and wool, there is no conversation. Not a single word has been spoken. The silence is not empty, it is full. Full of thought, of intention, of devotion. In this monastery, silence is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of something greater. One by one, the monks file out of the dormitory. Their procession begins not with ceremony, but with humility. Bare feet and leather soles brush softly over the cold stone floor. The torches in the corridor are not yet lit. They walk by memory, by instinct, and by the faint light of the taper carried by the novice at the front. Ambient, quiet footfalls, a soft flame crackling from the taper. This boy, perhaps no older than 15, walks with careful steps. The candle in his hand flickers as he turns each corner, casting golden light against the rough-hewn walls. His face is calm, eyes lowered, lips pressed together in soft focus. He feels the weight of the candle, not its physical mass, but its meaning. He is leading them toward the first prayer of the day. Behind him walk the others. Some are in their prime, shoulders broad from work in the fields. Others are elderly, moving slowly, deliberately, their backs slightly stooped but their pace steady. Among them are men who have not spoken in days, even weeks, those who have taken vows of deeper silence, content to speak only with God and through their work. Ambient, low wind through narrow windows, faint distant bell, one soft tone, the passage narrows briefly as it leads toward the cloister. Here, under the ribbed vaults and pointed arches, they walk beside a small open courtyard. The grass outside glistens with dew, untouched. A single tree stands at the center of the square, a crabapple, its leaves rustling softly in the breeze. A few tiny apples cling stubbornly to the branches, despite the season's turn. Their shadows stretch along the corridor walls, dancing gently in the light of the candle. It is a quiet choreography. Their robes sway softly with each step, brushing lightly against the cold stone. A hand here and there traces the grooves of the wall, feeling the worn indentations left by generations past. Ambient, robe fabric against stone, a faint drip of water from a ceiling joint, the procession turns again. A large wooden door stands ahead, the entrance to the lavatorium, the washing place. The monks enter one by one. A long stone trough runs along the far wall, carved from a single block, its edges rounded smooth by use. Iron spouts extend from the wall above it, and cold water trickles out in a steady stream, fed from a gravity-fed cistern above the building. No buckets, no tubs, just simple water, flowing as it always has. Ambient, flowing water from spouts, dripping, echoing gently. Each monk steps forward in silence and cups his hands beneath the stream. The water is cold enough to draw a breath if one were permitted. They splash it over their face, their eyes, their mouth. They clean their hands, rubbing fingers against palms slowly, thoughtfully. Washing here is not only practical, it is sacred. A physical purifying before spiritual engagement. Clean hands and clean hearts. Their towels are nothing more than squares of rough linen, hung from pegs along the wall. They are used, worn thin in the middle, smelling faintly of lye soap and smoke. Once washed, the monks file out the other side of the lavatorium and back into the corridor. The candle's flame dances ahead. The corridor bends once more, now leading downward in a slight slope. The walls here are thicker, the ceiling lower. The air grows cooler, tinged with the scent of incense and candle wax. Ambient, faint incense crackle, wood door creaking open. At the corridor's end, a wide door stands slightly ajar. Its iron hinges groan softly as the novice pushes it open. Beyond lies the chapel, the heart of monastic life. It is not a grand cathedral with soaring towers or colored glass. It is humble, like the monks who built it. The walls are of stone, thick and cold. The ceiling, supported by timber beams, rises only modestly above. There are windows, but small ones, narrow slits cut high in the wall, letting in the faintest grey light. Along the eastern wall, a larger window, plain glass, shows the first hint of dawn, a cool blue line just beginning to press against the horizon. Ambient, distant crows outside, soft wind moving through chapel's cracks. The chapel smells of centuries, old stone, beeswax, aged wood, and the memory of incense. Candles in iron sconces line the side walls, unlit, for now. The only light is from the novice's taper, which he now brings forward to the altar. With practiced care, he lights the first of the morning candles. One flame becomes 2, then 4, then 8. The light spreads slowly, gently warming the stone around the altar. Shadows dance along the floor. The monks enter silently, one by one, and take their places on the wooden stalls lining the chapel walls. The wood creaks beneath them, soft, aged sounds, like the groaning of a ship at rest. Ambient, faint wood creaking, soft footfalls, occasional robe brushing. They kneel. There is no rush. They move as if time were a river they stepped into gently, their motions fluid and unforced. One monk, an elder, remains standing. His role is to intone the beginning of the morning office. But first, he bows. Slowly, deeply, a full motion of humility, his fingertips touching the floor, his breath quiet and measured. Then, finally, he begins. "O Lord, open now my lips," he says, in Latin, his voice low, resonant, and unhurried. "And my mouth shall proclaim thy praise." Ambient, soft Gregorian chant begins, single voice, others join one by one, the other voices respond, joining him in seamless harmony. The sound is not loud. It does not need to be. It fills the space not with volume but with presence. The chapel becomes an instrument, its stone and timber resonating with sacred tone. The chant flows like water, steady, deliberate, unwavering. The rhythm is ancient, the words, unchanged for generations. Their cadence is a comfort, a familiarity greater than speech or sight. They sing not to perform, but to center. The chant is not just sound, it is structure. It holds them steady as they move from the silence of sleep into the structure of prayer. The outside world begins to stir, faintly. A breeze tugs at the chapel door. A bird begins its morning song in the distance. The smell of damp earth creeps through the cracks in the stone. But here, within these walls, time continues to slow. Ambient, chant continues softly under voice, occasional bird call in background. As the final notes of Matins fade, the monks remain in stillness for several minutes more. No one rises immediately. Silence once again reclaims the space. It is a silence different than before, deeper now, full of presence. Then, as one, they rise, not quickly, but gradually, and bow once again. The procession begins anew. This time, it is not a walk from sleep to prayer, but from prayer to labor, to learning, to the quiet duties of the day. Still silent, still mindful. The candle is snuffed. The chapel is left dim once more. But the light of dawn has grown outside. A pale, soft glow seeps into the world beyond the monastery. Birds stretch their wings. Dew shines on the grass. And within the stone walls, the monks move forward, Together, quietly, ready to begin their simple day. The stone chapel breathes with sound. Not loud, not intrusive, just present. Soft voices rise together in ancient song, flowing like mist through the cold morning air. This is Matins, the first full office of the divine hours, the formal beginning of a monk's day. The candles flicker gently against the stone. Their flames bend slightly, touched by unseen air currents that move through the chapel like whispers. Light pulls on the altar and catches in the folds of the monk's habits, bathing the space in golden shadow. Ambient, faint candle crackle, Gregorian chanting continues, low and fluid, each voice blends into the next. There is no performance here. No single voice rises above another. The chant is meant to unify, to dissolve ego, to create a single prayer carried on many tongues. The monks sit in rows facing one another in the choir stalls, wooden benches, worn smooth by years of kneeling and sitting. They sing from memory. No books are open. The words live within them, memorized over years of repetition. Not Sergamus, let us arise in the night. The Latin rolls gently off their tongues. The syllables are slow and clear, timed with breath. The chapel itself responds to the sound. Its high beams and vaulted stone echo the chant softly back, stretching it, holding it. The rule of Saint Benedict prescribes Matins to be prayed while it is still dark, or at least before first light. It is a prayer for endurance, for the soul to awaken even before the body fully has. A declaration that the new day belongs not to ambition or urgency, but to reflection, humility, and sacred routine. Ambient, wind outside brushes against chapel shutters, soft creak of wood. This is not a glamorous prayer. There are no dramatic hymns or soaring solos. It is long, sometimes lasting more than an hour. It is quiet, it is steady, and that is the point. In the darkness before daybreak, the chant acts like a lantern. It does not blind, it guides. The psalms are at the center of this practice. They are recited one after another, slowly, evenly, like stepping stones across a river. Each verse is separated by a pause. The monks do not rush to the end. There is no end. There is only the act of being in it. Domini, ne in furori tuo arguas me. O Lord, rebuke me not in your anger. One monk stands briefly to read from memory. His voice is soft and deep. He speaks a lesson from the book of Job, a meditation on suffering and quiet faith. His words are not dramatic. He reads not to be heard, but to be received. The other monks sit still, their faces composed, eyes often closed, not in sleep, but in deep attention. In this sacred stillness, even thoughts seem to slow. The mind, often restless in waking hours, yields to the rhythm. The air is cold in the chapel. The breath of the monks creates faint clouds that rise and vanish into the candlelight. But no one shivers. The chill is accepted, even cherished. It sharpens the mind, keeps the spirit alert. In a monastery, comfort is not the aim. Awareness is. Matins ends not with a flourish, but with a gentle bow. One by one, the monks bend forward from their waists, hands lightly touching the stone floor before them, backs rounded in reverence. The flame of the altar candles sways in their shadow. Then silence returns. Not an awkward or accidental silence, but a living one. A silence that fills the room as richly as the chant had. It is in this silence that Lauds begins, the second prayer of the morning, offered just as the sun's first edge begins to rise over the eastern hills. Lauds is a praise, lighter than Matins, but no less deep. If Matins was the call from darkness, Lauds is the answering voice from light. The first rays of light seep through the narrow chapel window. They stretch across the altar, reaching slowly into the choir stalls. The grey blue of early dawn gives way to a faint amber hue. Lauds begins with a blessing, softly spoken in Latin. Deus, in adjutorium meum intend. O God, come to my assistance. Domini, ad adjuvandum me festina. O Lord, make haste to help me. The monks' voices rise again, not louder, but clearer now. Less shadowed. The psalmody resumes, but now with glints of hope within it. Verses that speak of light, of thanksgiving, of daily renewal. The chant continues. The monks alternate lines from side to side, one row chanting the first line, the other the second. This practice, called antiphonal singing, is thousands of years old. It creates a rhythm not just of sound, but of space. A gentle back and forth across the chapel, like a slow tide. Outside, the world begins to wake. A blackbird calls from the cloister garden. Dew glistens on the grass. Smoke from the kitchen chimney rises into the pale morning sky. But within the chapel, the monks remain in prayer. One elder monk, his beard white, his posture still noble, steps forward again. He reads the Benedictus, the song of Zechariah. It is the same song every morning, just as it was yesterday, and the day before, and the centuries before that. A reminder of continuity, of being part of something far larger than oneself. Blessed be the Lord God of Israel, for he has visited and redeemed his people. The Latin flows from his mouth like water from a spring. The monks join on the refrain, voices woven into his, creating a single thread of devotion. At last, Lauds draws to a close. The Gloria Patri is sung, a quiet doxology of praise to the Trinity. The monks stand together, facing the altar, hands folded. Their shadows fall long behind him as the sun now filters fully through the eastern window. Then comes the final bow. Deep, grateful, without hurry, a final moment of silence. And then, the end. The monks do not speak. They do not rise all at once. They sit for a time, heads bowed, absorbing the silence. Letting it become part of them. Letting it carry them into the day ahead. Then slowly, reverently, the procession resumes. One by one, the monks leave the chapel. Their feet make soft contact with the stone. The candlelight fades behind them. Outside the chapel doors, the cloister awaits, brightening now under the pale blue sky. The world has changed in the hour since they entered. The dew is heavier, the air warmer. Somewhere in the garden, a rooster crows. And yet, within the monks, all is still quiet. Still scented. The day ahead, its labor, its meals, its writing and sweeping and silence, will unfold like it always does. But the heart of it is already complete. Their day has begun not with noise, nor with hurry, but with prayer. As the morning prayers fade and the sunlight begins to stretch fully into the cloister, a new kind of silence takes root within the monastery, a purposeful, watchful silence. One that does not wait, but creates. This is the silence of the Scriptorium, the room where words are born again. It is not far from the chapel, down a long corridor of dark grey stone, past the herb storeroom and the narrow stairwell that leads to the novices' dormitory. The door to the Scriptorium is thick, made of oak, with an iron ring handle cold to the touch. A small crucifix hangs beside it, carved by hand from yew wood. The door opens slowly with a familiar groan, revealing a room that breathes differently than the rest of the monastery. The Scriptorium is narrow and long, its walls lined with wooden desks and stools, each just wide enough for one monk. There are no decorations, no tapestries, no stained glass. Just rows of slanted writing tables, wooden benches, and shelves stacked with blank parchment, ink pots, and carefully prepared scrolls. The windows are small but many, carved into the eastern wall to catch the morning light. Now, as the sun rises, shafts of pale gold fall across the floor and slant over the writing desks. Dust drifts through the beams like fine mist, catching the light for a moment before disappearing into the air. The monks enter in silence. Their robes brush softly against one another. A few pull their hoods back. Their faces are calm and focused, but never rushed. They move toward their places not like workers, but like pilgrims returning to a sacred site. In the center of the room, a small iron brazier glows with coal heat. Around it are a few stone jars filled with ink and beeswax, kept warm so they flow more easily. The scent of iron gall ink mingles with the soft aroma of warm parchment and the faintest trace of ash. It is a scent unique to the Scriptorium, one that speaks of concentration, patience, and the steady passage of time. At each desk is a quill, usually goose feather, its shaft carefully trimmed to a precise angle. Each monk sharpens his own tool before beginning, using a small knife, honing the nib until the tip is just right. The act is slow, rhythmic, and meditative. A poorly trimmed quill means blotched letters. One mistake could ruin an entire page. Beside each quill lies an ink pot made from horn or ceramic, filled with dark brown ink. Iron gall ink, made from oak galls, water, and iron salts. It is both acidic and permanent. The monks know its temperament well. They stir it gently before dipping their pens, careful not to draw too much or too little. And then the writing begins. No voices. No conversation, just the steady, whispering scratch of quill on parchment, like leaves brushing across dry stone. It is not constant. A line, then a pause. A breath. A check of spacing. Another line. Each monk works on a different part of a manuscript. Some copy psalms. Others work on gospel texts. A few, more skilled and trained, are tasked with illumination, the delicate work of decoration, gilding, and miniature illustrations. At the far end of the room, beneath a slightly wider window, sits the master scribe. His fingers are stained from years of ink, his eyes narrowed with quiet determination. He is copying the Book of Kells, or perhaps its ancestor, a text of layered meaning and sacred weight. He works slowly, forming each letter with absolute precision. A, B, C, each character a prayer in itself. The script is insular majuscule, rounded and ornate, unique to the British Isles. The monks do not just write, they shape. Each letter begins with a stroke, a curve, a lift of the quill. Some letters take several strokes, layered gently to form perfect proportions. Once every few lines, a monk stops. He leans back slightly, not to rest, but to read. He mouths the words silently, checking for flow, for clarity, for reverence. This is not mechanical transcription, it is sacred memory being preserved. Mistakes are rare, but when they happen, they are handled with great care. A special knife is used to gently scrape the parchment. Then, with a paste of chalk and bone dust, the area is polished smooth again. The writing resumes, and the memory is repaired. In one corner, a younger monk works on rubrication, adding red ink to highlight headings and initial letters. He mixes the pigment with egg white and applies it with a thin brush, marking the page with careful, vivid color. Another monk nearby uses a delicate stylus to etch guidelines into the parchment, shallow enough not to tear, but deep enough to follow. And then there are the illuminators. They sit at separate desks, their tools finer, their work slower. With crushed lapis lazuli, verdigris, and gold leaf, they bring sacred scenes to life in miniature. The Virgin's robe glows cobalt blue. St. John's halo gleams gold under a thin sheet of sunlight. Tiny beasts twist in the margins, surrounded by curling vines and interlacing patterns. Every line of decoration has purpose. The symbols are not random. They tell stories in image and geometry. A lion for Mark, an eagle for John, a snake entwined with a cross, resurrection. A fish in a chalice, the Eucharist. The monks do not create art for beauty alone, but to echo the voice of God through symbol. Even in illumination, the silence is never broken. Communication is by glance, by gesture, or in rare cases, by small chalk marks on a shared slate. Every effort is made to preserve the calm, sacred atmosphere of the Scriptorium. Time passes strangely here. Hours slip by unnoticed. The scratching of quills continues, the light shifts slowly across the stone floor, the ink darkens slightly as it dries. No one checks a clock, there is none. Only the bell will signal the change. But for now, the monks remain in place, bent over pages, hands steady, hearts quiet. Their bodies move very little. Only their eyes, their fingers, their breath. They copy not for acclaim, but for eternity. They are building a library of memory in a world of illiteracy. Each word they write may one day feed a soul long after their bones are gone. The bell tolls, low, slow, and clear. It echoes through the hallway and into the scriptorium. One by one, the monks place their quills into small cloth holders, cap their ink pots, and gently roll a soft piece of cloth over their current page. Some blow lightly to dry fresh ink. Others simply bow their heads in gratitude. They rise slowly, backs stiff from stillness, but no one complains. They walk in silence, robes rustling like soft waves as they file out the door once again. The scriptorium grows still. The dust floats undisturbed in golden shafts of light. Pages rest half finished. Illuminations shimmer faintly in the warm sun. And so the room waits. Tomorrow, they will return. The quills will scratch again. The margins will bloom with gold. And the silence will fill once more with purpose. In this place, memory is not spoken. It is written, letter by letter, in silence. The warmth of the morning sun has begun to stretch over the eastern cloister. The shadows have softened. The stone floor in the walkways holds the night's chill no longer. But inside the monastic kitchen, it is another kind of warmth that fills the air, one born of glowing coals, seasoned hands, and the sacred repetition of daily routine. This is not a grand kitchen. It is low-roofed, thick-walled, and scented with 100 years of wood smoke and barley. Everything inside is wooden or iron, except the stone hearth, which anchors the room with its dark, fire-blackened bricks and ashen grooves worn by long use. Here begins the next ritual of the monk's day, the making of porridge. There is no clatter. No bustle, no shouting across the room. The monastic kitchen is as silent as the chapel, though filled with very different sounds. The slow knock of spoon against bowl, the soft squeak of wood across stone, the long creak of a cupboard door, opened and closed with care. These are the sounds of sacred preparation. 2 monks are already at work, long before the others will gather to eat. Their sleeves are rolled to the elbows, revealing arms well used to lifting, stirring, kneading, and carrying. Their movements are not quick, but practiced. Each action flows into the next, like one of the morning chants now fading from memory. From a thick linen sack, the first monk measures out oats. Coarse and heavy, the grains fall with a low hush into the wide copper pot already waiting above the hearth. Not instant oats, not refined grains, but rough, full kernels dried from last autumn's harvest and cracked by hand with a stone wheel just days ago. The second monk steps forward with a wooden jug. It is filled with water drawn from the monastery's stone well, cold, clean, and still tasting faintly of minerals. He pours slowly, allowing the water to find its place among the oats. The pot is wide and deep, its sides blackened by years of flame. It rests on a grate of iron bars, just above a bed of orange coals. No open flame, no raging fire, just steady heat, glowing and patient, like the monks themselves. The porridge will not boil quickly. It will not be stirred feverishly. It is coaxed into life, not forced. A large spoon, hewn from yew wood, stained dark from use, is lifted and dipped into the pot. With slow, heavy turns, the mixture is stirred. Each circle deliberate. The oats begin to swell. The kitchen fills with warmth. Not hot, just enough to ease the stiffness of prayer-weary hands. The scent of the oats begins to bloom, earthy and humble, mingling with the faint smoke that slips up the chimney flue. On a wooden table nearby, a novice monk works quietly. He slices coarse rye bread, made 2 days ago in this same kitchen, into thick slabs. The knife is dull, the crust hard, but he works slowly, anchoring the bread with one hand and drawing the blade back with patience. The sound is rough and soft at once. A simple earthen bowl holds goat's milk. It will be poured cold into clay cups for the monks who prefer a softer breakfast. Others will eat the porridge plain. No sugar, no fruit, just oats and water and, if available, a pinch of salt. Salt is valuable here, not common. If it is available, it is used sparingly. A single pinch, held between thumb and forefinger, sprinkled like incense over the pot. The motion is slow, almost liturgical. As though the salt, too, is a form of prayer. At another table, a monk grinds dried herbs with a mortar and pestle. Not for the porridge, but for later, to add to broth or bread. Sage, thyme, dried nettle. The pestle moves in circles, steady and slow, the aroma rising faintly into the warm air. The porridge thickens. Steam lifts gently from the pot, rising into the wooden beams of the kitchen ceiling where it gathers in the dark corners. The coals below shift with a low crack, sending a small wave of heat across the hearth. One monk tastes a spoonful, not with pleasure, but with intention. He raises the spoon to his lips, blows softly, and closes his eyes as he samples. It is not for seasoning. It is to ensure readiness. The oats are soft. The mixture, thick but not heavy. Satisfying, but humble. He nods. The porridge is complete. Clay bowls are brought out. Each one hand-formed, imperfect in shape, glazed in earthy tones of brown and green. They are laid out on a large oak table, along with wooden spoons, some carved with initials, others plain, all well used. The monks serve one another in silence. There is no hierarchy in the meal. No server, no served. One lifts the pot with a folded cloth, his forearms tense under the weight, and ladles porridge into each bowl, slowly, evenly, without waste. No drips are left on the table. No extra given to one over another. All receive what is needed. No more. A bell tolls, faint and deep, signaling the time for breakfast. One by one, monks enter the refectory, just beside the kitchen. A long stone room with wooden benches and a single table stretching its length. No decorations, no paintings. Just a crucifix above the head table and a small window through which morning light now shines freely. The monks move quietly to their places. Each man picks up his bowl and spoon, steps aside, and bows slightly before taking his seat. This, too, is ritual. This, too, is prayer. No one speaks. At the front of the room, one monk, designated for the week, stands with a book. He opens it slowly. The leather creaks in his hand. The ribbon marker is lifted, the page found. He clears his throat once, softly, and then he begins to read. Not loudly, not quickly, but clearly. It is a passage from the Gospel of Luke. A parable. The words float across the table, above the steaming bowls, into the hearts of those who listen. The monks eat slowly. Each bite is purposeful. The porridge is thick, filling, warm. The bread is dipped, the milk sipped. There is no gluttony, no second servings, just quiet nourishment, consumed with gratitude. A few close their eyes as they eat, not in sleep, but in thanks. The meal is silent, yet filled with meaning. It binds them together in the same way the chant did earlier. In the same way the script did in the Scriptorium. The passage ends. The reading monk closes the book and bows his head. The others mirror him. No applause, no words of thanks, just a final moment of shared stillness. And then the bowls are lifted, the spoons wiped clean. Each man walks with his dish to a wash basin in the corner, rinses it gently, and places it upside down on a wooden rack to dry. The scent of oats lingers in the room. A small wisp of steam still rises from the hearth. Soon, this space will fall silent again. The coals will die, the pot will cool. But for now, it holds the warmth of community, of simple food, prepared with care and consumed in stillness, and the day continues. Fed in body, as in spirit, the morning meal is finished. The bowls have been rinsed, the spoons laid carefully to dry. But the ritual of eating in the monastery does not begin and end with the food itself. Here, even meals are part of the sacred rhythm of the day. This is the refectory, a long, cool room nestled between the kitchen and the chapter house. Its thick walls hold in the morning light, which filters through small, narrow windows cut into the southern side. The stone floor still feels the chill of night beneath bare feet. The air smells faintly of cooked oats and smoke, but also of oiled wood and candle wax. There is no decoration here, only intention. At the far end of the refectory, above the head table, hangs a single wooden crucifix, rough carved and slightly weathered. It does not demand attention. It simply watches. The monks enter 2 by 2, walking in silence. Their feet make little sound. Their robes whisper across the stone as they file into place. No one rushes. No one lags behind. Each step is measured, practiced, not out of compulsion, but from years of gentle repetition. They bow before taking their places. Not a deep bow, just a slight incline of the head and shoulders. A moment of recognition. The refectory is not a place of chatter or indulgence. It is a place of nourishment, yes, but also of stillness, of humility. When the bell rings, no one lifts a spoon. They wait. At a small wooden lectern, just to the left of the crucifix, stands one monk, a reader. His hands gently open a worn leather-bound book, its pages curled slightly with time and touch. This is the rule of Saint Benedict, or perhaps a passage from the Gospels, or the sayings of the Desert Fathers. Each day offers a new meditation. He clears his throat once, softly, and begins to read. His voice is not loud. It does not need to be. The room is still. The monks sit at their benches, each before a simple wooden tray. On it, a bowl of porridge or broth, a thick slice of bread, a cup of water or milk, a wooden spoon. Nothing more, nothing less. They do not look up. They do not speak. Their eyes remain cast down, focused on their meal, but their ears are open. The reading is a kind of nourishment too, something to accompany the food, to anchor the act of eating in reflection and wisdom. Take delight in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger be put away from you. The words float across the table like incense, subtle and slow. They sink in without demand. The monks eat with small, steady motions. The spoons move gently, no clinking, no slurping, just the quiet rhythm of scooping and lifting, of chewing and swallowing. There is a sacred harmony here. No command is needed, no correction given. The monks know the tempo. They have followed it for years. Each bite is deliberate, each sip, measured, not for the sake of control, but for presence. Food, here, is not merely eaten. It is honored, and yet the meal is not a performance. There is no pride in silence. No judgment, only peace. Some monks eat quickly, others slower. Some finish every grain, others leave a bit behind. There is no commentary, no reaction. Each monk eats what he needs, then lowers his spoon and folds his hands. The reader continues. His voice is steady, the cadence almost hypnotic. He does not pause when others finish. He does not speed up. He reads as if time were a river moving at its own pace, unchanged by the needs of the individual. In silence and trust shall be your strength. The crucifix above the reader casts a long shadow across the floor now. The sun has risen higher. The light has grown softer, golden, slanting. A small fly buzzes at the window, its wings brushing the glass. Outside, the crows have begun to call. But inside, there is stillness. One monk at the far end of the table sips from his cup. His hands are worn, knuckles swollen from years of labor. He finishes slowly, then wipes the rim with his sleeve. He bows slightly in place, not to the food, but to the moment. To the practice of silence itself. Another monk, younger, finishes his bread last. His fingers linger over the tray for a moment. He closes his eyes briefly. Not in fatigue, but in gratitude. He has eaten this same meal for months, perhaps years. Yet today, like every day, it is enough. Eventually, the reading ends. The reader closes the book with both hands, carefully, as if tucking in a child. He bows his head and remains still for a breath. Then, softly, he steps down from the lectern and joins the others at the table. He has not eaten yet. But there is no rush. As he lifts his bowl, the others begin to stand, one by one, row by row. Again, no words, only gestures, a glance, a nod. They carry their trays to a wooden basin at the side of the room, where water waits in a clay jug. Each monk rinses his bowl, gently rubbing with a linen cloth. The water is cold, but clean. The cloth rough, but familiar. The cleaned bowls are placed on a drying rack, wooden slats that sit in the corner, beneath the window. Sunlight now rests directly on them, warming the clay. A few small droplets glisten on their rims before fading. And then, with one final bow toward the crucifix, the monks leave. They walk as they came, softly, slowly, together. The refectory empties. The benches grow still. The last of the steam curls upward from the rinsed bowls. The reader's book rests closed on the lectern, the ribbon tucked between psalms. Outside, the birds have resumed their song, and the wind stirs the ivy on the southern wall. But here, within these walls, silence remains, not as absence, but as presence. After the quiet stillness of the refectory fades and the last bowl is returned to its shelf, the monks do not retire to their cells. Their prayers and psalms have shaped the spirit. Their porridge has warmed the body. Now, the hands and feet must join in the day's rhythm. This is the time for chores, small, steady tasks that keep the monastery alive. It is not work in the modern sense, where effort is a means to efficiency. It is instead a spiritual practice, a way to serve the community, to care for the place that shelters prayer. Each monk has his duty. There is no shouting of orders, no delegation through lists or loud voices. The schedule is known, passed down in the rule and remembered like the songs they chant. The day begins with sweeping. The floors of the cloister walkways are stone, cool and uneven, dusted each night by wind and by the sandals of passing feet. A young monk carries a broom made of birch twigs lashed tightly to a straight branch. The handle is worn smooth from use. He begins in the northern corridor, near the chapel door, and moves slowly. With each stroke, he draws dust and straw toward the center. His motion is methodical, one stroke, pause, then another. He does not hurry. Each sweep is a prayer. A second monk follows behind him with a short-handled brush, collecting the piles into a wide wooden pan. Occasionally, a beetle scuttles from beneath a bench. The monk lets it pass, undisturbed. Life here is not dominated, only redirected. Elsewhere, in the herb garden, two monks kneel on thick straw mats. The earth here is rich, dark, still wet with morning dew. Between low stone borders grow the monastery's medicinal plants, sage, mint, yarrow, feverfew, and comfrey. Not planted in rows, but in tidy beds, edged with broken bits of pottery and chalk stones. One monk carries a clay pot. In it, warm rainwater and composted scraps have steeped overnight, creating a mild nourishment for the roots. He ladles it gently into the soil, careful not to flood the young green leaves. The other monk pinches off browning stems and gathers them into a linen sack. The scents here are vivid. Fresh cut thyme, crushed fennel, a faint peppery note of nasturtium leaf. The monks do not comment on the aromas, but they breathe more deeply. Their hands move gently among the leaves, as though blessing each plant as they pass. By the well, a third monk hauls water. The well is shallow by design, built by hand long ago with fitted stones. A bucket, bound in iron, is lowered slowly by rope. It hits the water with a hollow splash. The monk leans into the crank, turning slowly, steadily. When the bucket emerges, dripping, he tilts it into a wooden basin, then sets it down with both hands. The water will be used to wash linens, to fill cups, to soak dry beans for supper. Nothing is wasted. Every drop carried is used with care. Nearby, a group of monks tend to the laundry. not in a laundry room, but under an open eave beside the south wall. Here, cold water is poured into a basin, and linens, tunics, towels, robes, are soaked with ash soap made from burned beechwood and rainwater. They scrub slowly, pressing each fold of fabric over a ridged board. The soap leaves a faint, earthy scent in the air. Once clean, the garments are wrung out, twisted by hand and hung on a long rope line strung between two trees. The robes sway gently in the breeze, like silent flags. The henhouse sits in a small corner of the outer courtyard. That too must be tended. A monk, older, his gait slower than the rest, lumbers across the courtyard with a basket of dried barley and crushed oats. The chickens crowd around him, clucking softly, pecking at his sandals. He spreads the grain slowly, sprinkling it over straw and soil. The birds scurry after the feed, bobbing and chirping. A few steps away, another monk is mending a fence. A post has cracked near its base. He removes it gently, tapping the earth free with a mallet, and slides a new post in its place. The wood is young and pale, but it will darken with time. Like everything in the monastery, it will grow into its purpose. Elsewhere, two monks carry baskets of kindling into the kitchen. The fire must be maintained, not stoked to blaze, but kept at a steady, low burn. The kindling is stacked near the hearth. Thin twigs, carefully dried and bundled with twine. They will be used for the midday meal, and to heat the stone in the Scriptorium brazier. In the storeroom, tucked beneath the main hall, another monk checks the root cellar. Potatoes, onions, and turnips are kept in burlap sacks. Dried apples and pears hang from cords overhead. He records their condition on a slate, scratched not with numbers, but with marks to show how much remains, how long it may last. The cellar smells of dry earth and old wood. A single beeswax candle flickers in an iron holder near the stair, casting long shadows, and in the chapter house, the last of the morning's tasks is nearly complete. Here, one monk prepares the benches for the day's reading. He dusts the floor with a horsehair brush, adjusts the oil lamp, places a folded cloth over the central desk. Later, they will gather here for instruction. Now, it is empty, awaiting them. Each of these chores takes only a small part of the morning. None are rushed, none are delayed. There is no sense of finishing them. They are not tasks to be completed, but acts to be performed, again and again, each day, with the same attention as the first time. The monastery breathes through its labor. The birds sing louder now. The sun rests higher above the eastern hills. The ivy along the cloister wall stirs in the wind. Within the stone walls, movement continues, but never busily. The monks walk from place to place with the same quiet rhythm, their hands steady, their backs straight, their minds at peace. These are not chores to avoid. These are prayers with hands. And by mid-morning, when the bell tolls again, the floor is clean, the robes are drying, the garden watered, the fire fed, the water drawn. The monastery is not merely preserved, it is loved. As the morning deepens and the sun climbs higher above the hills, the monastery's quiet rhythm begins to shift once again. The prayers have been spoken. The porridge has been shared. The floors have been swept and the gardens watered. Now, the monks turn their focus to the labor of the body. This is not a break from prayer. It is a continuation. Within the monastery, manual labor is not seen as burden but as blessing. The rule of Saint Benedict teaches that idleness is the enemy of the soul. Therefore, the monks work with their hands, not hurriedly, not for profit, but as an extension of their devotion. To mend a wall, to till the earth, to split a log, these are all forms of sacred repetition. Outside, the air is cool. The wind carries the scent of damp grass and old pine. The sky is pale blue, streaked with cloud. And the sounds of work begin, not sharp, not chaotic, but slow, deliberate, and rhythmic. Near the edge of the cloister yard, beneath the arms of an old yew tree, two monks prepare firewood. The woodpile beside him is neatly stacked, the logs arranged by size and dryness. They do not speak as they work. One monk lifts a log onto the chopping block. He steps back, raises the axe above his shoulder, and brings it down in a slow, clean motion. The sound is hollow and satisfying, a soft crack, then the thud of wood splitting. The other monk gathers the halved pieces and stacks them at the side, forming neat columns of kindling. Each movement is thoughtful. There is no rush, no wasted energy. The axe is not swung with violence, but with balance. It rises, it falls, and it rests. A little farther beyond, near the garden wall, another monk bends low over a patch of soil. This is not the herb garden, but a larger plot of land, where beans, leeks, and cabbage grow in wide beds. The monk works the soil with a simple wooden hoe, drawing back the earth gently, exposing dark roots and damp worms beneath the surface. He pauses often, wipes sweat from his brow, looks up at the sky, then returns to his work. The wind picks up, rustling the linen of his robe. A crow caws from the nearby forest, but he does not look up. His hands continue, steady and grounded. Near the eastern wall of the monastery, 2 more monks are engaged in stonework. A small section of the cloister wall has begun to crack, weathered by rain, loosened by frost. They do not call a mason. They do the work themselves. They kneel on padded cloths, surrounded by buckets of lime mortar and chipped limestone. With wooden trowels, they mix, spread, and press the mortar between the stones, aligning each one carefully, matching the curvature, restoring the line. One monk holds a long straight edge against the wall, checking for alignment. The other brushes loose dust from a joint. They speak only with their hands, pointing, nodding, adjusting, then returning to silence. It is not perfect. The wall bears the marks of many repairs, many seasons. But it holds, and the act of repairing it connects them to every monk who came before, and every one who will come after. Farther down the path, near a small grove of hazel trees, a monk carries a woven basket. It is filled with stones, gathered from the fields, used to line footpaths and drainage ditches. He walks slowly, placing one stone at a time in a shallow trench. The shape must fit, the curve must hold, there is no cement, only gravity, patience, and habit. His fingers are lined with dirt. His nails dark from earth. But his face is calm. The work is not glamorous. No one will see the path when it's finished. But he sees it, and he knows it will carry feet safely for years to come. Back near the kitchen, a small group of monks work on roof repairs. A ladder leans against the side of the granary, and one monk climbs slowly, carrying a bundle of thatch. The roof has thinned in places. The straw must be replaced. Another monk waits below, passing up bundles of dried reeds. They are lashed together with twine, pressed beneath wooden pegs, layered tightly to shed rain. The wind tugs at their robes, but they continue, slowly, patiently, securing each handful. A few moments pass. Then the bell rings again, once. Not for prayer. Not for meal, just a mark of time. A pause. The monks take a moment. Those splitting wood lean on their axes. Those tilling soil stand and stretch. Those climbing roofs sit, briefly, on the thatch and look out over the hills. The land stretches for miles. Green fields, low hills, and pockets of woodland. No village smoke, no roads, just open sky and breath. They do not speak. But in that pause, there is communion. With the earth, with the air, with each other. A silence held, not avoided. Then, one by one, they return to their tasks. The axe rises again. The trowel presses into mortar. The hoe draws another line through soil. The rope tightens. The stone is placed. In this labor, there is prayer. Not spoken, not chanted, but lived, through movement, breath, and stillness. Through repetition, through awareness. The rule says, ora e labora, pray and work. But here, the two are not separate. They are folded into one rhythm, one life. And so the morning passes. Slowly, softly, and in each motion, the monastery breathes. Afternoon settles over the monastery like a warm shawl. The labor of the morning, earth, wood, and stone, has given way to a quieter stillness. The sun, now high above the cloister walls, filters through narrow windows, laying long shafts of golden light across worn flagstones. And in this stillness, the monks return to a place as sacred as any chapel. The Scriptorium. Here, the air smells faintly of ink and beeswax, warmed parchment and dried pigment. The room is lit not by firelight now, but by the strong light of the afternoon sun, falling through narrow slits in the east-facing wall. It washes over the long wooden desks, illuminating their surfaces with soft, golden clarity. The monks file in, slowly and silently, returning to their places. No bell called them here. Only the rhythm of the day, the quiet understanding that the body, fed and worked, now gives way to the hand, and to the word. At each station waits a text, half finished, carefully marked, paused like a held breath. A vellum page rests atop each desk. It is not paper, but calfskin, scraped, stretched, and smoothed to a supple surface. It still holds the faint memory of the animal, the ghost of a hair follicle here, a soft irregularity there. The monks do not erase this. They honor it. Each monk takes his place, ties back his sleeves, and begins again. The quill is lifted, dipped gently in ink, iron gall, dark and sharp, drawn earlier in the week from oak galls mixed with vinegar and rusted nails. It stains the fingers, but flows with permanence onto the page. A single letter is formed. Then another, each stroke deliberate, each curve and line drawn slowly, steadily, without tremor. This is not writing, this is prayer. The script varies slightly from monk to monk, but all follow the same sacred forms. Insular script, born of Ireland's own monastic tradition. Rounded, elegant, sometimes embellished with long descenders and spiral flourishes. Letters sit evenly on the ruled lines, carefully etched into the parchment beforehand with a blunt stylus. There is no hurry. A full page may take hours. A single mistake may require scraping the surface, smoothing it again, waiting for it to dry. But even correction is an act of devotion. One monk, older, with a furrowed brow and a careful hand, works on the Book of Psalms. His page begins with a large illuminated capital letter, B, for Beatus Ver. Blessed is the man. The B alone takes 15 minutes. It is not merely a letter, but a miniature painting. Its curve curls around itself in 3 spirals, filled with vines and beasts, tiny lions, winged birds, fish chasing each other through golden tendrils. Another monk, assigned to illumination, works beside a window. His tools are delicate: squirrel hair brushes, fine needles for scoring gold leaf, smooth stones for burnishing. Before him lies a palette of powdered pigments, ultramarine from lapis lazuli, red from cinnabar, green from verdigris, yellow from saffron and egg yolk. He dips his brush into the paint, draws it gently across the page, outlining a halo in rich blue. Then he lifts a square of gold leaf, no thicker than breath, and places it over a section he has prepared with bowl clay. With a light touch, he presses it into place, then burnishes it with a polished agate stone. The gold glows in the sunlight, soft and warm, not flashy, but eternal. The page before him depicts the evangelist John, his eagle wings spread across the margin, his face serene. Around him, a frame of woven knotwork, each loop and crossing hand drawn with astonishing precision. It is not art for display. It is art for prayer. Every line, every figure, carries theology. The lion, the calf, the eagle, the man, each represents a gospel. The knotwork, unbroken and interwoven, reflects eternity, the unity of the divine. Even the colors hold meaning: blue for heaven, red for blood and sacrifice, green for new life. The monks do not decorate to entertain. They illuminate, to make visible the glory hidden in words. Elsewhere, a younger monk copies from a master text. He reads aloud, not loudly, but clearly, in a slow murmur, letting the syllables fall in rhythm with the scratch of his quill. In principio erat verbum. And in the beginning was the word. He writes as he speaks. Each letter matched to the sound, each pause a breath. His candle flickers slightly as the wind shifts. He cups the flame instinctively, then lowers the wick. There are no distractions here. No conversation, only the sound of breath and ink. The occasional cough, the faint creak of a wooden stool. And the pages, so many pages. Stacked neatly beside each desk are completed folios. Some bear only the black script. Others, rich with decoration, are destined to be bound in leather covers, wrapped in carved wood, or inset with polished stones, if the monastery has such means. But even the plainest text holds value beyond gold. These are not merely books. They are vessels. They carry the sacred forward, into a world where few can read, and fewer still have ever seen a written page. These texts are light in the darkness, made not quickly, not cheaply, but carefully, by hand, in silence. At the end of the long table sits the librarian monk, guardian of the monastery's memory. Before him lies the register, carefully marked with the titles of each book, the progress of each folio, the dates of copying, the names of those who worked on them. His quill glides across the page as he adds a new line: Liber Psalmorum, folia 27, scripsit frater Teague. He lifts the inkpot, seals it with a cloth stopper, and turns the page. At last, as the sun begins to lower behind the western fields, the Scriptorium grows softer still. The light slants downward, the gold on the pages dims. One by one, the monks begin to stop. Quills are wiped clean and stored in wooden cases. Inkpots are corked and placed back on shelves. Pages are covered with clean cloths to keep the dust off. Brushes are rinsed, dried, and laid flat. The elder monk stands and bows his head. The others follow. They do not speak, but their movements are synchronized, one body of many hearts. And then they file out again, leaving the scriptorium in silence. The air is warm with the heat of sun and breath. The scent of ink lingers faintly, along with dust and wood. The only sound now is the creak of the door as it closes, and the rustle of a breeze against the glassless window panes. Within this small, quiet room, the eternal has been made visible. One letter at a time. The sun now stands at its height. Shadows shrink beneath cloister arches. The monastery has reached its quietest hour, not because it sleeps, but because it listens. This is the midday pause. In a world beyond the monastery walls, the middle of the day might bring urgency. Labor in the fields, merchants in the market, the clatter of tools, voices raised in barter or decision. But here, in this sacred enclosure, noon does not demand, it invites. After the morning's labor, manual and mental, the monks return to the cloister for silence. The cloister walk is the heart of the monastery, a square garden enclosed on all sides by covered arcades. Stone columns hold up a wooden roof, vines curl along the sides. At the center, a single tree, often hazel or apple, casts soft shade. Around it, grass is kept neat, a gravel path outlines its edges. The monks walk here, not for exercise, not for conversation, but for reflection. Some pace slowly around the walkway, hands folded in their sleeves, heads bowed. Others sit on the low stone benches beneath the arches, their backs against the warm stone, eyes closed or fixed gently on the garden before them. No words are exchanged. The only voices are the wind in the ivy and the quiet breath of the afternoon. A fountain stands at one corner of the garden, fed by a channel that winds from the distant hills. The water trickles into a shallow basin, round and worn smooth. A few birds come to drink, sparrows, robins, sometimes a bold finch. The monks do not disturb them. The robes of the monks shift slightly in the breeze. Some have removed their cowls, letting the sunlight warm their faces. Others carry small books, psalters, gospels, or the writings of desert hermits, and read slowly, lips barely moving. There is no schedule in this hour, no obligation to move or stay. The pause is not a command but a gift. A young monk sits in the grass by the base of the tree. He leans against its trunk, a folded cloth beneath him. In his hands, a smooth stone. Not polished, not carved. Just something he found in the garden weeks ago. He turns it gently as he watches the leaves move above him. Elsewhere, an older brother walks slowly with a cane, his steps soft and patient. He pauses at each corner, gazing upward, as if searching the clouds for a psalm not yet written. Above, the sky is wide. White clouds drift slowly, a few bees hover over late blooms in the flower bed. The monastery cats, lazy and unbothered, curl beneath the benches, occasionally shifting to follow the warmth. Time here has thinned. It no longer feels like something measured, but something lived, one breath after another, one step followed by stillness, then breath again. In one corner of the cloister walk, a monk practices Lectio Divina, the sacred reading. He holds a small, hand-copied book. The text is simple, its margins wide, the letters large and clear. He reads a single sentence, then closes his eyes. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. He repeats it softly, lips moving without sound. Then he waits, not for more text, but for silence to shape the meaning. Midday in the monastery does not seek to fill time. It welcomes emptiness. It is in this space, without pressure, without voice, that presence becomes clearest. No action is too small. No breath too ordinary. Every stillness is a prayer. The cloister garden glows now in full sun. The tree casts patterned shade. Insects hover lazily. The air is warm, but not heavy. And then, slowly, the bell tolls once. It does not interrupt. It only reminds. The monks begin to rise, not all at once, but gently, each in their own time. Robes are dusted, books are closed. Those who walked return to the stone corridor. Those who sat stretch slowly, some placing a hand on the stone for support. The cloister does not empty, it softens. Its silence remains, even as the feet pass on. Back in the corridors, the light filters through small glassless windows. The walls are warm now, holding the sun in their surface. A breeze moves through the hallway like a whispered blessing. The monks will go now to their next hours. Some will return to the scriptorium, others to the kitchen, the garden, the workbench. Each task will unfold again, without noise, without urgency. But this hour, the quiet pause at midday, lingers in them. It is not forgotten. It rests beneath their steps, beneath their breath. Like a low hum beneath a chant. Like the blank margin beside the script. It is the silence that allows the sacred to speak. And so the day continues, not in haste, not in struggle, but in rhythm. As it always has. As it always will.